What didn't you learn in sex ed that should have been taught? Protection is important for oral sex too. Use dental dams for eating your girl out to prevent orally transmitted disease. If you can't find dental dams, it's easy to make one out of a condom. Also, more education on gay sex in general. That flavored condoms and regular condoms are not interchangeable. Flavored condoms will give people with vaginas a yeast infection if there's penetration involved. Flavored condoms are strictly for oral sex. Regular condoms can be used for oral theoretically, but not advised. The taste can't be pleasant. All if it. We just didn't learn sex it. Southern private religious high school gang rise up. So many things. Female masturbation is a thing, not just male. They talked a lot to the boys about how it's normal for young boys to do that, but why would you mention that to girls? Right. Also anything about communication. Screw that. They talked about consent a bunch. Sure. But the amount of people that don't realize you should actually talk about that stuff beyond you wanna is astounding. Sex toys were completely left out. Contraception isn't limited to condoms and the pill, but why make things complicated? They completely ignored kinks and fantasies and different tastes as well. I get why, but damn, so many people would have benefited from having someone explain that shit. They never taught us anything about same sex. Respect for you and your partner. There seems to be a lot of stories out there where one partner feels entitled to having their pleasure over the other person's, as well as just the general anatomy of pleasure for women compared to men. Far more complex and diverse. And understanding that just because one thing works for one person doesn't mean it will for you, and that it doesn't make you less of a woman or less sexual, just means you need to take the time to explore yourself and find what works. By doing so, especially as a woman, you can then better guide your partner to help you, instead of trying the same thing over and over hoping it changes with a different person. Totally not projecting here, just thinking of people I have talked with. Most of us only ever get taught about straight sex, but not the clitoris and other forms of female pleasure, for example. Then occasionally we talked about gay people, but never about gay sex. Anything to do with queer sex beyond if you have it you'll get AIDS. The difference between consent and submission, they are not the same thing. When you consent, you must be free to say yes and free to say no. If a person holds a knife to your throat and you have to choose between death and sex, you have not consented. You have submitted to the least harmful option. You have been raped. So many people confuse the two, and it's one of the reasons rape victims don't come forward. They blame themselves for not saying no or not fighting. I'm amazed how many people call abuse hotlines, describe being under pressure, scared, confused, and end the story with "Have I been abused?" You guys had sex ed? No, I had to Google this shit when 12. That there are latex-free condoms. They're just expensive, like $1 each. Still cheaper than babies, I suppose. $2 annual cost is not very expensive at all. Never go into your stepbrother's room after midnight. What are you doing, stepbro? I just wanted to see if your room was clean. I wish we spent less time putting condoms on bananas and more time talking about how to actually please a partner. It seemed all we ever did was just put condoms on bananas. Side note, our sex ed teacher went to Mexico one year and just never came back. He had to put a condom on every banana in Mexico. That takes a while. Consent is very important to discuss before you move on. Enthusiastic consent. Wheedling it out of someone after pestering the shit out of them is not right. That person does not want to have sex. I read this as "What did you learn in sex ed that shouldn't have been taught?" And I remembered the video they showed us of a cartoon girl with a dog under her covers. They explained that she had discovered masturbation and that oral stimulation feels good, and that her and the dog was a form of masturbation. They didn't say if it was wrong or right, just that this is how some people find out about their bodies and early experience. Why oh why was there a dog involved? WHO drew that. Anal sex should be explained in high school so kids don't it up. Don't an asshole then a vagina, that's how you get a UTI. Prepare. It's not something you do, no planning, no stretching first time. Use a small toy, fingers beforehand if you don't plan on taking it super slow first time. Teach people their prostates can feel good. You need to wear a condom. Shit can drip down and get you pregnant. Also STDs. Sometimes folks have sex because it's fun. Not everyone getting boned wants to have a baby. And that's okay. Shampoo is bad lube. How hard the IRS was gonna f*** me. Women only get pregnant when they're ovulating. You should of course always practice safe sex, but knowing when your partner or yourself is ovulating can help you be extra careful if you're avoiding babies. We had a practical to put a condom on a dildo so we'd know how it works. I just wish we would have been able to change the orientation. I felt comfortable putting a condom on my male lover, but putting it on myself was a lot harder. It was also more frequent, since I'm a straight guy. My Catholic school didn't teach us about condoms as they thought it would encourage us to have sex. Fortunately the magazine More did. I brought it to school and showed everyone. The only stuff I've learned is from running into it online, since my parents opted me out. Skeptical smiley face. Not especially, only in sex ed. Women also like and want sex. I wish I knew that sooner, so I wouldn't have to feel like I have to talk the girl into having sex with me. That's how it always felt to me, especially because a lot of girls, women like to be submissive. You should sometimes do stuff you don't love but never stuff you hate. I was told in sex ed that I should never do things I don't like in bed. Worst advice ever. Unless I hate it, I'm up for things that gets the other person turned on. Imagine if I wouldn't love giving head. If I wouldn't love anything in bed but to stick the penis in and come immediately. If I only followed that preference, I would become very sad and lonely when nobody ever wants to f me ever again. I learned that saying from an older woman, not a sex partner, who lived by those words and divorced her husband. Didn't have sex ed sadly, but I did learn about sex at 10 thanks to a small part played where my female cousins were searching up naked men, so I decided to look up naked women, and bam, it all spiraled from there. Resources on where to get tested for STIs. For the men out there who have foreskin, it can be pulled back, and it can stay there, and the only way to get it back into its place is by pushing it. Boys should be taught about periods. Foreplay and getting her wet. Our section on homosexuality was watching the Philadelphia Story, and we never covered anything else relating to LGBTQ people. We didn't get any section on homosexuality, like they literally never ever brought it up at all and just assumed everyone was straight. Female arousal. I completely missed that. I didn't know that I could become aroused at all. I did understand lubrication. All I knew is that guys made jokes about it. I just thought it was supposed to hurt. Basically everything about anal. I'm gay. I had to Google how to have anal sex. I wish I'd known anything about gay sex prior to having it. Like, literally anything would have been helpful. Never learned to roll a condom on anything. Didn't really learn all that much, if anything, to do with HIV. Wasn't told to urinate after intercourse. There was absolutely no education on gay sex or possession of sex toys, how to clean, etc. Wait, your teacher didn't get you to practice rolling condoms on his hard member? How to use sanitary female products. I'm a guy and this was never taught to me. My ex taught me when she suffered an injury. She was an amateur boxer. She had messed her back muscles, so she wasn't supposed to use her arms at all, and in fact the doctors applied something to numb the arms completely to avoid further injury while she endured therapy for 2 months. During that time I helped her with every task. Bathroom, shower, food, etc., and obviously her period too. But I was clueless on how to properly utilize a tampon. I knew the theory, but I didn't know it had the plastic thing to insert it, which I found pretty neat. As a guy, the first believe this should be taught, and guys should even carry sanitary pads in case a female friend needs it for an emergency. It shouldn't be a taboo at all. Lube, condoms. Women have 3 holes. We don't pee from our vaginas and we can't hold in menstrual blood. I don't know about lube, but condoms definitely should not have 3 holes. My town banned sex ed. I'm from India. We don't do sex ed here. The only sex ed we have is through porn. So basically, yeah, everything. How people with disabilities are supposed to have sex. I have muscular dystrophy, so I don't have much stamina, and I can't do it the old-fashioned way because my muscles are weaker. They don't teach about orgasm. I already knew about orgasms, but they never mentioned it once. Catholic school, so pretty much everything. Our sex ed class was taught by our insane super Christian gym teacher. I learned nothing about sex from it, but had to sit through 2 videos where they showed abortions being performed. Thanks small town public school. 99% doesn't mean 100%. Uncle Bobby is dangerous. How to acquire the other half. That you can withdraw your consent during and stop. That my no can be communicated in other ways than a verbal no and should still be respected. If I don't have the ability to say no because I'm scared he will kill himself if I say no, that is not consent. That you are more likely to be forced or coerced into sex by someone you know, and that is rape, and that being forced to not use contraception is also rape. I learnt all these the hard way, and my sex ed was generally considered better than elsewhere is quite sad. Use lube so the condom doesn't break. Prostate massage, anal is pretty amazing. Your sexuality is irrelevant. Sex is fun and not just for procreation. Butt stuff. The latex in condoms can partially dissolve in oil-based lube. That the clitoris is the most sensitive part of the body for most women and that you need a lot of foreplay to make her come. Luckily I learned that before my first time. It would have been awkward. Also, for most women it's so sensitive that you cannot go rubbing or licking it like a lunatic, like they show in porn. You have to be really gentle and follow her lead. She will let you know if you need to go faster or slower. Consent. What that means and what is it when you retract consent. If I had learned that earlier I wouldn't have been convinced that giving consent in the middle of rape meant it wasn't rape and I wouldn't have stayed with him. It would disingenuous of me to claim I paid attention in sex ed class. What the that third hole do? Gets you a visit from the ATF. 2 things that scared the shit out of me for women until I talked to others. Your period isn't always the same day of the month. My school system said it is perfectly regular after you hit the age of 20, but so many things can cause it to be delayed, come sooner, not come at all, such as anxiety or other chemical imbalances, or even more sexual activity than normal. Another thing they didn't teach us about is ovarian cyst. Although you should see a doc when you get them, they're a lot more common than people think. I hadn't even heard of them until I had one and thought I was dying. I never had a sex ed class. If not for the movies, anime, video games and my friends I would have never even have known what even a condom or sexual intercourse is. I once saw a hentai website that had condom as a separate genre, like, oh wow this kitsune is using protection, oh lord that turns me on. Anything regarding foreskin. It was just assumed that all the boys were cut. How lesbian sex works, like, at all, and what dental dams are.